If you don't take it easy, you're going to die. I was alarmed. I was talking to my grandfather as he was walking across a parking lot. He was struggling. It was hard for him to walk. And I had just come back from serving in the military overseas and hadn't been home for 3 years to see how he was doing. And I could not believe the condition I found him in. And here I am, the grandson who admires him and respects him. And I'm telling him, you got to stop pushing yourself so hard. You're going to die. You need to take it easy. And he looked at me and he said, I'm not going to stop living my life until my life is over. And if you knew my grandfather, that was that. I had grown up admiring him greatly. He taught me so much, and I hope to share some of the things that he taught me through life. Recently, I just saw an article of him with former President Reagan. He was involved in his campaign in 1980. He had friends, Democrats, Republicans alike. He was a beloved city councilor. His best friend was a Democrat. He was a beloved state representative. And he was also just a great influence on my life. And at the time, I was going through a very hard time in my life, coming from the confusion of my teenage years, struggling in so many different ways. And I thought for sure joining the military would help me get my head on straight. And it did in some ways help me grow up, but I was still just really struggling. And I was ashamed of what my life had become. I was confused, and I was fearful of even coming to see him because I just believed I had let him down in so many different ways. And yet when I came back from overseas and I saw him, he embraced me with just wide open arms. The thing is, though, is while I was gone, he had many health setbacks, multiple strokes, and health-wise, he wasn't the same as when I left. And it was hard for me to watch. It was maybe more noticeable for me because I had been gone so long, and I think the family that saw him more often, the decline must have been more slow towards them. But for me, it was a very stark thing. And it was hard for me to see him refusing to slow down, refusing to stop doing the things that he had already done. He was 82 years old. And he just couldn't keep going the way he was going. And I felt like the right thing to do was just to make him slow down, not do anything, but that's not what he wanted for his life. And I'm going to tell you in just a second the story of his final days, but I'd just like to ask you if you would go ahead and like this video and share in the comments. I'm trying to help develop a community where people can share experience and learn and grow so that we can help anybody that's dealing with end of life or a caregiver for end of life or a family member, those that are approaching their sunset years, that we can help one another learn how to navigate those times of life. That's the purpose of what I'm doing with Pastor ChrisRN. And my name's Chris. I'm an ordained minister and a registered nurse, and I specialize in hospice care. I'd like to also ask that you just spread the word around. As this community grows, we'll be able to do more things as we get more resources, including I'd really like to upgrade equipment, do better with video editing, things that I'm just not good at. I like to be able to find somebody as other people, and we have some people that have been doing some editing for us, but we just need to grow so we have those resources to make higher quality material. Anyway, back to my grandfather's story. So finally, he ended up, I was home probably a month, and he ended up in the hospital again with another mild stroke. And this time he wasn't getting up. And it didn't look like he was going to make it. In fact, as I went into the hospital, my aunt was going in a lot. As we were checking in and talking to the doctors, it just didn't look like he was going to make it at all. But he kept hanging on and kept hanging on. And it was at that point where there was a wonderful moment where I came to visit him, and he largely was sleeping, not very lethargic. But when I came in the room and I touched him and talked to him, he became very alert, very lucid. And he looked at me and he told me, "Chris, you need to turn to God. You need to get right with God." It was so shocking because I wasn't expecting that. I had largely grown up in the church at the time. I guess the best way to describe it is deconverted from Christianity, and was very confused and didn't know which direction to go in my life. And here he was in this moment. When I was there to try to comfort him, he was there to try to influence me in his remaining moments. And then he further went on to say, "I just want to go home. Can you please get me home?" And I was struck. I was saying, "Oh, you want to go home? I'll get you home." And I talked to the doctor. My aunt talked to the doctor, and the doctor went and talked to him. And any moment that he had any lucidity, he just kept saying he wanted to go home. Finally, the doctor consented, and we got him home. And a few hours later, I don't remember exactly how many hours, it was not long after he got home, he did go ahead and pass away. He just wanted to be home. He didn't want to be in the hospital as he drew his last breath. What was really profound and deeply impactful for me in that moment, and I had no healthcare training back then. I had no idea what I was doing. All I was just trying to be is a good grandson to a grandfather who had deeply impacted my life and I was very close to. But one of the things that I learned, or actually two things I learned. The first thing is he understood that he was 82 years old. His life wasn't going to go on forever, and he was making a life choice that I would rather just keep going as if I was healthy, even though I'm struggling. I have trouble walking. All these things are hard for me. I would rather just do the best I can to be the kind of man that I've always been, even though I know that it's probably going to lead to me passing away sooner than as if I just laid up in a bed and let people take care of me. And one of the things I learned is that was his choice. That's what he wanted. It wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to have him around. I wanted to do more to rebuild the relationship I felt I had damaged. But that's not what he wanted. So I learned, first of all, that respect and love for our loved ones is to recognize that what they want in their life and support that when they come to end of life. The second thing I learned is that when a loved one's in the hospital and saying they just want to go home, they know they're going to go home to die. And they just don't want to hang on to life moment by moment, day by day in a hospital. They just want to go home. They want to be in their home as they draw their last breath. They want family around them, holding hands, loving them, caring for them. Instead of being in the sterile environment of the hospital, they want to be in the familiar, safe place of home. I learned those things way back when, and now as a hospice nurse, I see this over and over and over again, where family members simply just want to keep on living their life, and they want to be home when they pass away. And I just would love if you would share in the comments, maybe stories of loved ones and everything, encourage one another, because we do need to tell these stories. We do need to encourage one another, because oftentimes this is just the hardest possible thing that you can do, is to respect loved ones' wishes at the end of life. But it is their wishes, and I do think it is really beneficial for us to support them. This is Chris, Pastor Chris RN. Let's build a beautiful sunset together. The end of life is like a sunset, and how we deal with it, we can make it a beautiful sunset for those that we love.